Hey, what's going on? It's Ruben J here, and this is the return episode of the Ruben J Show. I'm so excited for you to be watching this one. Now, before we jump into it, I do need to ask you to make sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube, on the podcast feed. Follow the Instagram page at the Ruben J Show. Follow me on Instagram at the Ruben J, as well as on TikTok and all those fun places, because there's so much content that's going to be coming out over the next week or so as this episode airs. Now, I'm talking with LOREE BISHCOFF, and I'll jump into my official intro with LOREE here in just a second. But I do want to preface this by saying that if you don't have thick skin, if you are somebody who is easily offended by hearing hard truths, this episode is not for you. But you should still listen to it, because I think there's so much value added from what LOREE and I discuss about goal setting, whether or not you should keep your New Year's resolutions. And I know you're probably thinking, dude, it's like a month and a half, almost 2 months into the new year. Why are you talking about New Year's resolutions? And it's very simple. At this point in time, most people who have New Year's resolutions have fallen off that wagon. And LOREE and I talk about that a little bit to try to keep you motivated on keeping your goals and also setting goals throughout the year. So make sure you watch that. And again, subscribe and follow LOREE for more. And here is this week's episode. I'm excited. It's truly a pleasure to be able to connect with LOREE BISHCOFF. We did this a year or so ago, going into, I believe, 2024. Maybe it might have been 2023. I don't remember what year it was, where we talked about New Year's resolutions and such, and it was earlier in the year than what this is going to be. So we're going to do the same kind of thing. But LOREE, welcome back to the Ruben J Show. How have you been?
Thank you. It's so fun to be back. I have been really great. It's been busy. I think it has been 2 years since we last did an episode together. So there's been a lot of good things going on. It's been busy. Life is great though. I'm looking forward to a really excellent year ahead. And yeah, I have no complaints either.
2025 is going to be an incredible year. I can feel it in the energy. I work in my main job these days is a retail, not at Apple. I don't work at Apple anymore. But customers are coming in, and even if they don't like kind of some of the stuff that's happening in the news and in the mainstream, there's a sense of optimism that I haven't felt in a very long time, since definitely before COVID. Are you feeling the same kind of energy out in your neck of the woods?
Absolutely. Uh, Yes, from everyone I've spoken to, just the vibe in the air. And it is a very optimistic attitude, uh, good, high energy. And I think, there's going to be some people that feel like maybe it's the end of the world. But that's kind of always the case. Somebody's always going to feel like that after an election. It just, it is what it is.
Oh,
but
absolutely.
but overall, yeah, I've picked up on a lot of really optimistic, good, high vibes.
Yeah, 100%. I'm feeling it out here. And I think that's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you, is because I think that 2025 can definitely be a defining year for a lot of people. And I want to give people the opportunity to hear somebody who has been able to help tons of people, including myself, kind of get their life in order and move on to like bigger and better things. But I do just want to take a minute here just to, I've been meaning to do this privately for a long time, and so I'm like, might as well just do it in public. I'm gonna fully endorse LOREE BISHCOFF as a life coach to anybody who needs any sort of just a little kick in the butt, a little someone to bounce ideas off of. A few years back, LOREE and I did a couple of sessions, and she really helped me. I'm gonna say right side my life a lot. I was stuck in a job I didn't like, and not really heading in the right direction as far as just some of the things going on in my life. And during our coaching sessions, she really kind of helped me come to terms that I needed to leave that job. I needed to find this new job that I ended up going into. And ultimately it ended up to where I finally found like something that I'm truly passionate about, which is what I'm doing now. And I can tell you about it offline. I don't want to out my business to the world right now.
Mhm.
But thank you for just being that person there and being able to help me kind of work through some of those questions, and really like and tell me the honest truth. Like, you weren't afraid to tell me if I wasn't thinking something correctly, which is always the hard part when you're doing coaching. is this person going to tell me just what I need to hear, or what I want to hear versus what I need to hear? And you definitely told me exactly what I needed to hear, and it got me up and out of the funk that I was in.
Cool. Thank you. That was just a very, very generous testimonial. I appreciate it. But you also are someone that took in the information, took in the things that we shared, and then you did something with it.
Mhm.
So that's the key right there. There's no shortage of really great people out there dispensing great advice, guidance, coaching, therapy, whatever it is. But then you can only do so much. The client, it's just up to them then to do something with it, to take some sort of action. And not everyone does. Everyone, can receive information, but then not everyone actually puts it to use to make the changes that they say that they'd like to make. So you did your work. Kudos to you. And now you have landed in a very happy place. I'm
Yes.
I'm very, very happy about that.
Yes,
So
and it's interesting, just to kind of tell you the journey, just as part of as we reconnect here for the world. I got laid off in July of last year from a company, from the job that we switched over to. Essentially, ended up being a really bad situation. I can't say much about it just because of stuff. But I went through a funk last summer. Or not, was it? No, it wasn't last summer. It was July of 2023 when I got let go. So my years are way off. And I went through a funk all through that summer and into the fall. And applying for jobs, and my girlfriend at the time, basically told me, she's like, hey, you got a chunk of money, why don't you just hang tight for a little bit? You applied for unemployment, so you're getting that as well. Like, just hang tight for 2 or 3 months. Don't focus so much on getting back on your feet. Just relax. You've been working nonstop since 2012. Like, you deserve a break. And so I took a little bit of a break and did some stuff that I wanted to do. And then when I started, like, when it was like, okay, I have enough chunk to get me through the rest of the year, I really need to find a job. I started looking for the work, and every time I got a call for an interview, I would make up an excuse not to go to the interview because I didn't feel like, I literally went through the phase of like, I'm unemployable. If I couldn't keep that job, I'm unemployable, and ended up landing a job at Apple. And that job, I owe Lauren, so much, just because the day of the interview, I literally had a panic attack. I'm like, I can't go to this interview. Like, I'm not good enough to work at Apple. And I'm not wearing this shirt on purpose. It just happened to be the only thing that was clean today, just FYI. And she's like, hey, you know what? Whether you're good enough or not to be at Apple, that's for them to decide. You need to show up, and you're never going to know if you're not. And then I remember some of the conversations that you and I had was basically show up, like, just show up, do what you need to do, put the work in. I showed up and ended up getting the job, ended up fast tracking me to the job, and ended up finding a true passion of helping people in technology. And so I owe Lauren to push me to that, but also going back to like the fundamentals of the coaching sessions that we did. And I kicked myself in the butt for not reaching out during that time frame to have somebody to kind of coach me through that a little bit too.
you should have. But it
I
sounds like Lauren did a great job.
She did. She did. She basically told me, like, hey, you're not going to know if you're good enough for this job because if you don't show up to the interview, you're not going to know if you're good enough or not, because you don't
Mhm.
give them the chance to actually judge you. So all that to say, again, thank you for the great coaching, and it ended up, to this day, I still use a lot of the techniques that we worked through, and I probably should schedule a couple of sessions in 2025 just to make sure I stay on track with what I'm trying to do now, because I have some big plans, and we'll talk about it offline.
Awesome. I'd love to. Great. Great.
Let Let's talk about 2025 from a practical standpoint, because I think there's new administration, there is potentially a new economy coming out. Like, it just seems like everyone is starting to invest money back in the United States economy. There's a lot of room for upgrades and improvements in professional and personal life. And so 2 years ago when we connected, we talked about setting New Year's resolutions. This year, this episode's going to come out around the time that most people start falling out of their New Year's resolutions. And so my goal with this conversation is to hopefully have people who are maybe on the fence about whether or not they're going to keep the resolution going, to give them a
Mm,
little bit of a motivation to keep it going.
mhm.
And so the first question that I have is, here we are, as you and I speak, we are on the 23rd day of January. So 23 days into the new year. By the time this comes out, it'll be about the 1st of February, around there. Um, Typically, from your experience, how are people feeling around this particular time year to year when it comes to goals and resolutions and such that they've set for themselves into the new year?
Yeah, so typically right about now is when people start falling off the cliff. About 3 weeks in, and maybe this year, it'll be extended a little bit because there is this sort of optimism in the air, and it might give people a little bit of extra juice to maintain their resolutions. But for the most part, starting about now, 3 weeks in, and then 4 weeks in, I think the stats around 80% of people have pretty much abandoned the resolutions, which, I know we talked about it before with some tips about trying to maintain them. But if I'm to be really, really frank, I just don't believe in New Year's resolutions at all.
Yeah.
I think New Year's resolutions are this year's procrastinations. And that's all it is. You're just kicking the can down the road. If something was really that important to you, whatever this change is that you're going to, stop doing something or start doing something. That's usually what a resolution boils down to. I'm going to start this or I'm going to stop that. And I'm going to go after, whatever. But if you wanted those things that desperately, you wouldn't be putting them off until January 1st or 2nd, because usually then you need a couple days to recover from New Year's Eve and January 1st. So really you don't even start on the 1st. So it's just a procrastination technique. I think if I'm really excited about something and I want to get after something, I'm not waiting. Why would I wait? What am I waiting for?
Yeah.
So right. So I just want to put that out there. So maybe for people that have a pattern of resolutions, and you know what, if you're somebody, one of the rare, the small percentage of people that makes a New Year's resolution and then keeps it, and that works for you, awesome. You don't need to change a thing. But for the other 80%, maybe just abandon New Year's resolutions and think about this in a different way. Whatever it is calling to you or nudging you to change something, then don't put it off and don't wait. But I think if you are at that sort of teetering on the edge right now, it's really, literally just had this conversation about motivation with a client this morning. And I said, I don't really know that we can motivate another person. I think that motivation is really an inside job. I think that we can inspire people. People can get inspired, but honestly, unless, if you really think about it, here's what works for motivation. A criminal wants you to do something you don't want to do. Okay, I'm motivated now. I'm motivated by something external outside of myself because I don't want to do that. But there's a threat that I'm afraid of, so I'm going to be motivated to do what this person wants me to do. Beyond that, as far as doing something good for yourself that you need to do, I just think that you have to figure out the thing within you that is going to drum up that drive to do it. Because as a coach, or friends, or you watch YouTube videos and clips, and there's a lot of people out there that are super inspiring, and that's awesome. Use that. I do all the time. But as far as the actual making you move, I mean, motivating is literally, an action. It's comes from, motive, to move and to have a reason to move. That's internal. So nobody can actually, I don't think, really motivate you, but they can greatly inspire you. So I think if you are stumbling right now on your resolutions, then I think you need to dig deeper into why you had the resolution in the first place, because your why has to be pretty strong so that your will doesn't buckle, when you start to get challenged. If if you don't have a deep enough, compelling enough reason why you're doing this, it's going to be pretty easy for you to get pulled off course and abandon things. So
Yeah.
that's one. You really need to examine that, right?
Let me jump in here real quick because I want to get some clarification for some people. Because I hear that all the time, like figure out your why. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that the follow up to that should also be, um, is your why also going to be good enough to keep you motivated? Because, you're, for example, I've talked about losing weight for the last 10 years, probably, wanting to lose a little bit of weight. But I've never had a true, like, other than wanting to look a little bit better, I've never had a true why, and a lot of people, they think about, oh, bikini season's coming up, so I want to look good in my bikini or my swimsuit, so that's a motivating factor to lose weight, or, a wedding's coming up, so I need to, slim down a little bit so I look good in my suit or my dress. But that's
Mm-hmm.
temporary why, in my opinion. You get to that
Mm-hmm.
point and
Yeah,
then it's easy to
it's
fall
a
off.
surface why. It's
Exactly.
surfacey.
Now, I think about people who have put off weight, as an example, and have kept it off. There's usually a very important why: a heart attack, medical diagnostics that it isn't good, diabetes acting up, or just a medical scare. And so maybe if you can, maybe spend a minute and maybe help kind of connect the dot between finding a why that can keep you motivated. Because
Yeah.
I think about a couple of my friends where, like, most of the times it's like, oh, I want to lose weight just so I can look hot. I'm like,
Mhm.
well,
Right.
what happens? What happens the day after you've hit that metric?
Yeah, yeah, because you want to have something, if you do hit it, to be able to maintain it,
Mhm.
rather than, well, okay, I hit that goal, I'm going to cruise through summer, and then you start to drift back into old habits and patterns, right? So, for example, you said, you've been toying around with the idea of losing weight, shall we say, for, let's say, a decade,
Sure.
and you said, well, because, yeah, maybe I want to look. I want to look good. I want to look better. And then I could say to you, well, why is that important? What would you say?
Well, at the time was, trying to find a woman, but I found one. So, but for the
Hey,
most part, yeah, I was like, hey, you know what? I feel like my weight, for the for through my 20s kept me from finding, a partner.
okay. Now you have a partner. Do you still have the weight?
I've lost a little bit of it, but yeah, for most of it, yeah.
Okay. And so are you happy with where you're at, or is it still a goal to make a bigger shift there?
Well, now it's a goal to make a bigger shift because of health reasons. I'm
Okay.
having some
So
health
that's
issues, so yeah.
okay. So that would be your next thing. So you went from, I want to look better, so I can attract a mate. Fair enough. That's pretty normal. And now you've shifted to a deeper why. Well, you probably still want to look good
Of
naturally.
course,
They'll
yeah.
have a little bit of take pride in your appearance, but now you have another layer of, okay, but now my next layer is why is it important, now, because also of health reasons. Okay. So then I could say, all right, well, why is your health important?
Got to make sure I'm around for my wife and, my niece and future kids. You know, that would be probably my big, like, my top of the line answer is I got to be around for my wife.
Okay, got to be around for you. And why is it important for you to be around for your wife?
Oh, we're digging deep now, aren't we? I
That's how
mean,
you get to the deeper why.
yeah, yeah. I mean, ultimately, obviously to continue to provide stability and you know, uh, stability for her, and both financially and, emotionally, but also, if we have kids, I don't want to leave her as a single mom in her mid 20s.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So there, you see, we went from me and my looks to attracting a mate to I need to better my health. And then we got to a deeper why, which is a bigger calling to be of service in a way that is I need to take care of something beyond yourself. I want to be able to take care of my wife and hopefully the children we intend to have. So now you've moved from some surfacey things to I want to look good. You've gone down several layers to, but here's really a deeper, more compelling why.
Mm.
There's other people that I want to be responsible for, take care of. That's my commitment to them. So that is a much more compelling why, right? Than, oh, I want to look good. It's summertime,
Yeah.
right? So when a person is on, maybe you've created a new eating lifestyle and working out or whatever you're doing, when you start to get to that point where, okay, I'm starting to slack off or you're starting to go off the rails a little bit, you're not going to be, it's going to be easier for you to abandon, oh, I kind of wanted to look good or look good for the, the class reunion that's coming up or the wedding that's coming up. To now you're looking at your wife and you look into her eyes and you see your future children. And now that might be, inspiring enough and call to you deeply enough to go, nope, I'm going to stay on course because that's really important to me, more important than the other things.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
just,
So
I feel like if so somebody, as an example, needs to find the difference between making more money as the why as to like what the reason they need more money, quote unquote, is it debt paid off or something like that. Am I following you correctly on that one?
yeah, I mean, I think whatever it is, as long as you keep asking your questions, why is that important? Until you get down to a place where there's just, you can't come up with any other whys, you just keep kind of going through the layers so that you really understand why. You know, so maybe, I mean, making money, there could be a whole bunch of different reasons depending on the person, their circumstances, and what their needs are. Maybe somebody, just wants to be able to, maybe somebody wants to build generational wealth.
Yeah.
Maybe someone just wants to live the high life and have status. Maybe somebody wants to, create be a philanthropist. I mean, there's all kinds of reasons. Maybe someone just wants to, get out of debt and be financially secure. Uh, I, there's a million reasons, right? But until you get down to the deepest, and all you have to do is keep answering, well, why is that important to me? Every time you say, well, because I want to do this or I want to have that, why is that important? Until you just can't seem to answer it anymore. And at least, if nothing else, you'll get down at least a few layers deeper.
Yeah, for sure. So with your line of work, I'm sure you have a lot of people coming to you just for general like goal setting, like next steps, like all that stuff. What is there like a specific like tangible thing that you tell people to do to stay on track?
Yeah, it's the doing. It's, you pretty much answered it in the question. You have to do the thing. So, with each session, we come up with some action steps that the client agrees that they feel like I can do that. Yes, I will do that. And I'll do that action step by such and such a date and time. Okay. So the clients that follow through and actually do their action steps, they make progress and they get closer to achieving what it is they're trying to achieve. Um, Sometimes everyone's moving at a different pace. Some people work pretty fast and I've got my marching orders and I'm excited to get after it, and they do their stuff and they move pretty quick. Other people, for different circumstances, depending on what's going on in their life, sometimes they don't get to all of them, or sometimes something happens, they don't get to any of them. And so we revisit why, and we sort that out, and then we tackle it again. As long as everyone is willing and still driven to move forward, we just keep going. But it's very it's very customized to each individual circumstances. So, but there's always action steps, and it's up to the client. Then I can do everything but the action step with them. I can't do that. I can just help you create the plan that you feel you can, live up to, the things that you can do. If you agree on these, okay, we think this is a good idea. Does this move us closer to, achieving what you're trying to achieve? The answer is yes. You go for it. That's it. The rest is up to the client. And so the main thing is do what you say you're going to do.
Yeah, 100%. And so, do you recommend that if somebody, and I agree with you. I think New Year's resolutions are stupid. I think that's actually what we called the episode that we did, a couple of years ago, is New Year's resolutions are stupid or they suck or whatever.
Sounds like something I'd say.
I think that was literally a line that you said at some point. And so people who do that, like, I agree. It's dumb. It's kind of kicking the can down the road. I would much rather sit down and like with someone like yourself and say, hey, here's what I want to do. How do I get on track to doing that? So do you recommend people to set just like goals throughout the year to keep them kind of accountable? Like, is there a roadmap on, like, and I'm sure maybe they need to subscribe to your podcast and your coaching sessions to get the full experience here, which I 100% endorse. But what do you say to people who are like unhappy with their life? Right now we're in the beginning of the new year, but let's say we're in the middle of June and they realize, oh man, I really want to get out of this situation. Are they really going to wait until next January? Like, what do you tell people in those situations? Get off your butt.
Well, yeah. I mean, every day you get to choose something different. You might wake up and go, all right, I'm so over my job. I can't deal with this anymore. And so you can choose something different. Now, does that mean that you should quit your job on the spot without having a backup plan? Unless you're independently wealthy, that's probably not a good idea. You still need to be strategic about things, but you can
Yep.
make a decision, right? You can make a decision. You can make a new choice to go, I am done with this. I'm going to find my way out of this and into something new, and have that decision, which will then start to drive you to taking some action. Because the only way that you're going to make that happen is if you do something, right? If you look at what else is available, what else might I want to do? How can I afford to make this change? How can I afford to make this change? I mean, so then you can start making choices and decisions that can start moving you in the direction of the change you want to make. But first you have to make a decision, right? You gotta
100%.
first decide something. So if if it's June and you are really unhappy with some things in your life, yeah, freaking don't wait until January. I mean, why would you do that? So start now. It's an arbitrary number now, because things are, really psychological for us. So everyone is gearing up. You've got this whole final quarter of the year really that starts to be one, event after another. And by the time you're done with the holidays, people are, there is kind of like this new, psychologically, it's like new energy. Okay, it's a new year, it's a clean slate. And it's a psychological thing, but whatever. You can still have that feeling, on June 15th if you want. You can make that your new clean slate from here on out. But I get it. I get it's how we've been conditioned. And so it's not unusual for people to feel like they have this new, fresh perspective in January, and now they're going to make some shifts. So go with that, but certainly don't wait. You can make any day January 1st or whatever in your mind. So yeah, I hate to see people leave cards on the table just because you waited and you waited and you waited. There's no guarantee that you're going to live to be 85 years old. So assuming you have lots of time, endless time, because you're looking at the law of averages, and usually, American men live to be about this age and women this about, whatever. If you're using that as I've got time, you're really doing yourself a disservice, because you really, you don't know.
Yeah.
Why waste time? Why leave so much to chance when you can do things now?
Yeah. Especially if you're sitting there and you're working a job that for you is not fulfilling whatever it is, whether it be financially or just satisfying, your output to society. Why would you want to work there for another 7 years while you try to figure out what's next for you? Or if hey, I really want to go off and do X, Y, and Z, like, what your plan is. Why put it off? Like, yeah,
Yeah.
there might be circumstances like, oh, I need a degree for that, or I need, a certificate, or need to invest some time and talent and, and money towards it. Um,
Yeah.
but the longer you wait, the longer it's going to take you to get to the end goal regardless. So I do agree. Like,
Right.
my mindset this last year has been, you know, every day is a fresh start if you really think about it.
Hmm.
Like, you can have a bad day. Tomorrow's a new day. What are you going to do differently to make sure that tomorrow is not the same as today?
Yeah.
And
Or what did you learn from your bad day?
yeah,
So that you can take something valuable into the next day with you and not just drag the crap with you.
100%. In the line of work that I do, I deal with clients all day long. And early on in this job, I made a huge mistake that absolutely ruined my day and my customer's day. And I could have easily just sulked in it all day. But my next transaction, I took what I messed up, and I purposely worked on it in that next transaction to make sure that I learned from that mistake. And I have not, knocking on wood, I've not made that mistake again. And
Yeah.
so you can literally take a mistake that happens now in 10 minutes, use it as a lesson, and make yourself a
Exactly.
better person, employee, friend, family member, whatever. So there's no
Right.
excuse, and not like you choose. I truly believe you choose to have, not always, but you can truly choose to take a bad situation and just sulk in it and make your day completely worse.
Hmm. Yeah, and people do that all the time. It's just it's a bad habit.
Yeah.
It's just a bad habit. And I think that, and I can't remember. Maybe we talked about this before, but I am somebody that is very greedy about the way I am going to feel. I'm
Yeah.
greedy about my health. I'm greedy about, and when I say my health, I mean, my emotional health, my mental health, my physical health. I'm really greedy about it, and I am not. I'm not okay with being in a state of disrepair or disappointment or dis anything. I don't want to feel low and negative, and in that kind of state of mind for any longer than necessary. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't be in a like a giddy happy mood all day every day. That's lunacy. But what I'm that's ridiculous. But what I'm saying is you don't dwell in low periods. You don't dwell and ruminate on the negative things. If something, I mean, let's take the obvious, grieving a loss aside, because that's a different set of circumstances. But other things like, screwing up, making a mistake, to your point, the example you just made, yeah, yeah, maybe it stung a little, maybe you were humbled, maybe your ego got bruised, but figure it out. What did you learn about yourself? And how do you, use that moving forward? And then you leave it behind. You don't keep dragging it into each new moment with you,
Yeah.
and make yourself miserable. That's a choice.
Yeah.
I'm too greedy
100%.
to do that. Yeah.
I need to learn to be greedier when it comes to that stuff, because I tend to, I take things I learn from them, but I don't tend to let them go very easily,
Mm.
because I still kick myself a little bit, when I think about certain things I've done, or certain things
Hmm.
I didn't do, when I needed to. And so I need to learn a little bit more on how to, like, be greedier about how I allow myself or don't allow myself to linger on things even after the lessons learned, because I think that's the hard part for a lot of people, is like, okay, cool, there's a lesson here. Like, yeah, this mistake happened, this situation happened. I learned from it. apply new things, but I still just can't get over it, you know? And I wonder,
Mhm.
I wonder how much of that also hinders people from making those like steps forward as well.
Sure, sure. Because if you're going to beat yourself up about something you did, basically what you're doing is you're judging yourself. You're continuing to judge yourself for making a mistake, right? And how does that serve you? If you copped to it, so okay, my bad, I'm responsible, I did what I could do to make amends, and now I know I'm going to try to not repeat that.
Yeah.
One. But if you're going to continue to beat yourself up about it, now you're judging. It's just a constant judgment. You're terrible, you did that, you screwed up, what's wrong with you? That's Now that is going to keep you from evolving. That's going to,
Yeah.
keep bringing it. It's going to keep coming up in your conscious awareness, and it's going to make it difficult for you to just be able to keep your mood elevated to a higher place. You're vibrating at a low level, and it's not a pleasant place to live.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. 100%. I think, I hope someone's listening to this and they're like, oh, they're talking about goals and now they're talking about like getting through some hard stuff. But I love where the conversation is right now. But I want to focus again a little bit on just kind of where people are at right now. And so,
Okay.
um, you know, I want some real coaching right now from LOREE Bischoff right now. Like, imagine the person on the other side of this. They're listening to this on the day they're thinking about giving up on whatever it is that they set for themselves.
Okay.
Um, give them some hard truth right now about,
Hmm.
hey, you committed to this. You got to see through it.
Hmm.
Because I think we'd be doing a disservice to people if we talk about all this stuff and we talk about things that they could and should do, and then not give them a little kick in the butt,
Hmm.
on the back end of this conversation. So please, the floor is yours to give some people some hard truth right now.
Okay. So first of all, let's see. Uh, let's start with this. So typically by now, if people really think about it, if they are losing a grip on their goals, um, I would say, what is the story that you are telling yourself? Because there is one. You are telling yourself a story. So it's either an excuse, or you're justifying why you haven't done what you said you were going to do, or you're coming up with, you're negotiating with yourself. So, first of all, I would say, what is the story that you're telling yourself? So you almost have to think of it as there's two of you in there. There's two of you in there. There's the higher you that knows better, and then there's the you that's down here doing stuff, right? Or not doing stuff, depending,
Yeah.
if that's what your deal was. So it's kind of like, I mean, we talk to ourselves all the time. I mean, everyone's probably had this experience of, for example, you're driving along, and you're so deep in thought that you just drove by the turn that you needed to make, and you've made it every day for the last 5 years, but you drove right by, and you're like, and so you say to yourself, what are you doing? You just missed your turn. So okay, you're talking to yourself. The higher you is talking to the you that just was, lost in thought and drove by your turn. There's two of you. So this is when you go, okay, you ask yourself the quality questions. What is the real reason that you are slipping and not following through on the goals you set? That's the story. What is it? Or what's the story, and then what's the real reason? Okay, because there might be a story like, well, my schedule changed and now I don't have time, or I got the flu, or whatever. There's the story. And the story may or may not be true, but it's still a story. It's something you're leaning on, that you're using as a negotiation to not follow through. So you got to get clear on that, and then you have to ask yourself, um, Was this really a goal that was all that important? Or was this just something that seemed like a good idea at the time?
Mm.
Because if it just seemed like a good idea at the time, then you're not really compelled to follow through. So I think you need to get real with yourself. If it just seemed like a good idea at the time, and now I actually am not that interested in this, well, there's no way I could give you, 20 phenomenal tips. You're not going to do them because you're just interested. Interested in something doesn't make it happen. You have to be driven. Two really different states of mind, two different sets
Yeah.
of energy, right? So I think you got to get real with what you really want to do. Now, let's just say you call yourself on your own bullshit. You realize you've been negotiating your way out of what you really said you wanted to do, and you just got lazy. Okay, admit that. I just got lazy. I've been, whatever. So get real with yourself, and then just then find your deeper why. So maybe you need a more compelling reason that you hadn't maybe you hadn't dug deep enough. So find your why. So we're now at what's your story? Call yourself out, get honest, find your deeper why if you've decided that, yeah, I really do want to pursue this goal. Okay, find your deeper why, and then get an accountability partner. So lay out your steps. What do you need to do? What do you need to start doing? And what things do you maybe need to stop doing that are interfering with your goal? Right? If your goal is to, let's just take something really obvious. If your goal is to lose weight, then you have to stop eating, 200 carbs in a day. That's just pretty common knowledge now. You can't have, you can't have sodas and muffins every day. You can't have gigantic mocha chocolates every day if that's your goal. So just get practical. There's a lot of, practicality and logic that has to come into play, and you need to get after it, right? So you're going to get serious
100%.
with yourself. Okay. I think here's the other thing that's a little bit trickier. Let me go back to the accountability partner. So whether it's, a family member, a partner, a spouse, a coach, whatever, but somebody that you can say, I am committing to doing this and this and this, and here's my plan. Can you help hold me accountable? Can you, can I check in with you, once a week or whatever the plan is, and let you know that I've done this? Or will you text me and say, hey, did you do this? So having an accountability partner is really helpful for a lot of people. Okay. And if it's somebody, in your same household that's supportive, and is not going to try to sabotage you or say, oh, it's okay. No, you don't want that. You want somebody to whack you upside the head and go, what's wrong with you? This is what you're doing. Get after it. Okay.
100%.
But the other thing is, and this is a little bit more tricky, this is where you might need to consider, if you can, working with a coach or someone. But that is, if you're doing all this, if you've tried all this stuff and you still feel like, okay, for whatever reason, I want this really bad, and no matter what, I just can't seem to follow through. Well, then here's the thing. 90% of what we're thinking, doing, believing all day is coming from our subconscious programming. So if there's stuff down there, there's beliefs that you have that are running the programs habitually, and those beliefs, most of those beliefs are installed before you're 7 years old. From the time you are in your mom's tummy to the time you're 7, all kinds of beliefs have been downloaded into you. And by the time you're an adult, and then you keep bumping up against something and you can't figure out why is this constantly an issue in my life? Well, frequently, most of the time, it's because there's some stuff lurking in the shadows of your subconscious that you're not aware of. And until you can shine a light on it, bring it up to the surface and go, oh, I get it. I've got this belief that's working against what I'm trying to do here. And you just weren't aware of it. So once you become aware of it, then you can unwind it and replace it with a positive, supportive belief that is going to be in alignment with what you're trying to do now. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff. I hope if someone's listening to this, they're like, yes, this makes sense.
Yeah. And sometimes if a person is able to sit and do some self-analysis and think back to, memories, sometimes there are some people that are able to go, okay, I see how this affected me, and I see now how I see some parallels. It can be done, but it can be difficult, and sometimes it's just not. You just can't see it yourself, so you need somebody else to help you do that analysis and bring it up to the surface, and help you, get that perspective, so you understand how it's working in your life now, even though maybe you weren't aware of it.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. I'm a big believer in getting coaching and getting some therapy if needed. Work through some stuff because there are a lot of like really steep subconscious things that are going to keep you from being happy or keep you from making that next step or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And if you never tackle those deep issues, then
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna year after year find yourself in the same position or in a slightly worse position just because you haven't been able to make moves that you wanted to make because you're so afraid of disrupting whatever subconscious thoughts you have. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Loree, I appreciate your time so much, and I thank you for coming on here and giving us some real talk here. And I know you have your podcast coming back soon. So real quick, why should people tune in to We're Talking Shift when it comes back in a couple of weeks?
Yes. I'm excited. Actually, it is going to be in a couple of weeks. Maybe three weeks ish. It is going to be a lot of, it's going to be a lot of the same types of things. You know me, I'm into health, and when I say
Yeah.
health, because I'm a holistic health coach, so that's life coaching, that's nutrition. It's getting your mental diet in order, getting you emotionally fit. It's all of that. It's not just what are you eating. So it's your physical health, but it's also really about, we're going to be diving more into, I think, some more specific things around, like your relationships. Let's just say your relationship with your significant other. If you're a parent, your relationship with your kids, your relationship with yourself, your relationship with money, those types of things. We're going to talk more specifically about, I think, parenting, kids. We're going to talk more about specifically single parenting,
Ooh.
and trying to navigate that whole landscape if there's been a split. So we're going to just dive deeper into a broader range of subject matter, but it's all about the things that people are going through every day as they're trying to, create a life that they can feel good about. So everything everything we do is about, how do you make your life healthy in every respect, so that you can enjoy it and feel good about it, what you're doing and where you're going.
I love it. I love it. Go subscribe. And if you are listening to this and you're like, you know what, I could use somebody to bounce ideas off of and get some coaching from, Loree Bischoff uh, is definitely somebody I would 100% recommend. So there'll be some links in the description of the podcast on how to get into touch with her and listen to her podcast. Anything else you want to touch base on real quick?
No, I mean, this was fun. I'm so excited. I can't believe how fast the time goes. My gosh,
I
it's
know
already
it's
been
been
50 minutes.
almost an hour.
I know, but yeah, hopefully that was helpful. And I just think, this is a time also to just, I think it's always good to sit down and think about, how can I clean up my own life even more right now, because it's
Mm,
really easy, I think, for people to get very distracted about what's going on out in the world, and get worried about what they think is going to go on in the world, and you can get very distracted and anxious about that. But I feel like, you know what, I think if we just all kind of humble ourselves, um, and make sure that our own house is in order, and that means, not only our house but our mental house.
mhm.
Just focus on you, and get yourself in a really good place, and just don't be too anxious about what you think may or may not happen in the world. Be aware, but I, I think that there's just a lot of, we can be distracted by a million things all day long, and it keeps us from being proactive creators of our own life. So that's what I would say, is really focus on your life, get your house in order, and really be a proactive creator of your life. That's my parting words for today.
Awesome. I love it. All right. Well, hey, stick around for a quick second here.
Yeah, thank you.